He walked onto the stage with a calmness that didn't match the roaring Manila crowd. The lights of the AGT Manila 2025 arena glowed across his face, and even before he said a word, thousands leaned forward as though they already sensed something extraordinary was coming. His shoes were slightly worn, his jeans simple, his shirt tucked in carefully like someone who took pride in small details. But what truly captured the moment was the way he held the microphone, like someone who had waited his whole life for this exact second. The host stepped back, and he took one gentle breath. No one expected what came next. Because the moment he opened his mouth, the arena froze. The voice wasn't just familiar. It was uncanny. It was Elvis, Elvis in Manila, Elvis reborn, Elvis echoing through a Filipino soul. The judges looked at each other instantly. Simon's eyebrows lifted so sharply that the audience screamed even before the note ended. It was only the first line of the song, but it was enough to send chills running through the entire building. The depth, the warmth, the nostalgia, it was like a doorway had opened and Elvis Presley himself had stepped into the Manila AGT stage with all his charm, pain, and power. People began whispering before he even reached the first chorus. Is he really Filipino? How is that possible? That's Elvis, that's literally Elvis. But this moment, this breathtaking entrance, was only the start of a story that had taken years of heartbreak, sacrifice, and unspoken dreams to build. And before the world would learn why his voice sounded the way it did, they would learn who he truly was beneath the songs, an ordinary man with an extraordinary gift he never believed he was worthy of. His name was Daniel Rivera, a 33-year-old security guard from Quezon City who worked night shifts outside a mall. Every night, while everyone walked past him without noticing, he sang softly to himself to stay awake. Elvis' songs were his comfort, his companion, his rhythm. He learned how to mimic the king's tone not from a teacher, not from a studio, not even from a video. He learned it because singing Elvis was the only thing that made his long nights feel less lonely. He had no vocal training, no fame, no social media presence. He didn't post covers, didn't record songs, and didn't even own a proper phone. The only audience he ever had were tired workers returning home at dawn, and sometimes stray cats that lingered around the gate. People told him he sounded good, but Daniel always laughed it off. To him, real singers belonged on stages, not in security uniforms. His whole life had been a cycle of working hard, going home exhausted, and supporting his mother, who suffered from complications after a stroke. He never imagined that the voice he hid for years would one day shake an entire arena. His audition wasn't even planned. One day, while he was on duty, a young boy selling bottled water stopped to listen. The boy didn't move for nearly a full minute. He simply stared, mesmerized. Then he ran away without a word. The next day, the boy came back with his older sister, and then their father, then their mother. They all stood silently, listening to Daniel sing softly in the night. After he finished, they approached him with a phone and asked him to audition for AGT Manila 2025. Daniel laughed nervously. I'm not a singer, he said. But the boy insisted, you sound like Elvis. You sound like magic. Please try. It took them 3 days to convince him. On the morning of auditions, Daniel borrowed a clean shirt from a friend, fixed his old shoes, and took a jeepney to the arena. He almost turned back 3 times. He was terrified of being laughed at. But when he looked at the boy who believed in him, he took a deep breath and stepped toward the line. Now, standing on the grand stage, all that fear was gone. Only the voice remained. The arena was silent as he continued the song. His tone melted into softness during the verses, then rose into powerful, soul-shaking richness in the chorus. He wasn't just copying Elvis, he was channeling him. Every note felt lived in, honest, deep. Every vibrato carried a story. People didn't just hear Elvis, they heard Daniel's long nights, his hopes, his fatigue, his heart. Judges leaned in slowly. Even the host stopped moving behind the curtain. People in the audience clutched their chest. Some wiped tears without understanding why. It was the kind of performance that made everyone feel something even if they didn't know what. And then, in the middle of the song, something remarkable happened. The big screen behind him lit up unexpectedly with the camera capturing the crowd. Thousands of phone flashlights lit up one by one, turning the entire arena into a sea of sparkling white stars. Daniel didn't see it at first, but when he finally glanced up, he nearly lost his breath. Never in his life had he seen people raising lights for him. Never had he been applauded like this. His hands trembled, but he held the microphone tighter and pushed through. As he reached the final chorus, his voice soared with a raw emotion that didn't sound like imitation anymore, it sounded like confession. It sounded like a man finally letting out years of silence, finally claiming a dream he had been too afraid to touch. And when the final note echoed across the arena, nobody moved. For a moment the world stood still. Then the eruption came. The crowd screamed his name. People rose to their feet. The judges stood. Simon looked stunned, staring at him as if he couldn't quite process what just happened. The other judges exchanged looks of disbelief. Even backstage crew members were crying. Daniel stood frozen, gripping the mic with both hands, his eyes glassy with tears. He whispered, "Thank you," barely audible, overwhelmed by the entire scene. He had never experienced anything like it. Simon raised his hand slowly, signaling for the crowd to quiet down. "Daniel," he said, his voice unusually soft. "I don't know who you are, I don't know where you came from, and I don't know how this voice exists inside you, but this might be the most authentic tribute to Elvis I have ever heard. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful vocal moment we've had this season." The arena exploded again, but Simon wasn't done. "What makes it even more incredible," he continued, "is that you're not pretending to be Elvis. You're honoring him, and you're doing it with your own story, with your own soul. That's why this worked. That's why we all feel emotional." Another judge stepped in, wiping a tear. "I felt like Elvis was standing behind you. Not in a copycat way, but like his emotion traveled through you. Your voice is warm, it's nostalgic, it's golden, and it hits the heart directly." The third judge leaned forward. "Tell us, Daniel, where did you learn to sing like that?" Daniel swallowed. His voice trembled. "Ma'am, I never learned. I just work nights as a security guard. I sing to stay awake." A collective gasp spread across the arena. "I always loved Elvis. He made me feel less alone." Simon blinked hard. "A security guard, you're telling me, this voice has been hidden at a mall gate?" Daniel nodded shyly. The audience cheered louder, shouting his name again. Then the judge sitting nearest to him asked, "Do your family know you're here?" Daniel's voice shook more. "Only my mother. She had a stroke last year. I take care of her. She told me to try something for myself for once. This is the first thing I've done for me in a long time." People in the front row were visibly crying now. Simon pressed his palms together as if trying to steady himself. "Daniel, you don't just sing Elvis songs. You carry his spirit, and today, you touched something in all of us. This performance is unforgettable." The judges looked at each other, and without hesitation, Simon reached forward and slammed his hand onto the golden buzzer. A shockwave of gold confetti burst from the ceiling, raining down in shimmering lights. The entire arena exploded in screams so loud they echoed like thunder. Daniel gasped, dropping to his knees, both hands on his face. The boy who had encouraged him and his family were in the crowd screaming with joy, waving wildly, crying uncontrollably. The host rushed out, lifting Daniel in excitement as confetti stuck to his hair, his clothes, his trembling hands. Simon stood up and approached him on the stage. "You deserve this," he said warmly. "You're not just a singer tonight, you're a miracle." Daniel cried openly, tears washing down his face, unable to speak. The boy who believed in him ran forward, and security led him through. He hugged Daniel tightly, shouting, I told you you could do it." Daniel hugged him back, his voice breaking as he whispered, "Thank you, Anik. Thank you." The cameras zoomed into Daniel's face, the disbelief, the gratitude, the shock, the relief, and audiences watching from home across the Philippines felt the moment sink into their hearts. Someone ordinary had just become someone unforgettable. After the golden buzzer moment faded and the stage was cleared, Daniel was taken backstage for interviews. He was still shaking, still processing. He kept asking if it was real, kept touching the confetti as if it might vanish. He spoke about his life, his mother, his job, and how he never expected anything like this. When the backstage host asked him what he wanted most now that millions would be watching him, he paused thoughtfully. "I want my mother to see me on TV," he said softly. "She sacrificed everything for me. I want to make her proud." His mother was watching live from their small room in Quezon City. When she saw the golden buzzer, she covered her mouth, crying silently. She reached out and touched the screen, whispering, "Anik, you did it, you finally did something for you." The video of his audition went viral overnight, breaking records in the Philippines, trending worldwide, and attracting headlines calling him, the Filipino Elvis, the Manila Miracle, and the security guard who sang his way into history. Celebrities reposted his clip, reaction videos poured in, music experts analyzed his tone, praising the natural authenticity and old-school warmth in his voice. But the most powerful reactions weren't from celebrities, they came from ordinary Filipinos. Mothers, fathers, workers, students, jeepney drivers, market vendors, all saying the same thing: he reminds us of hope. He sounds like the past, but he carries the future. He made us feel proud to be Filipino. Days passed, but the buzz never slowed. His face appeared on news segments. Radio shows played his audition audio. People flocked to the mall where he used to work, asking the new security guard, "Is the Elvis guy really from here?" Daniel became a symbol of unexpected talent, a reminder that greatness often hides in places no one thinks to look. As the competition progressed, Daniel prepared for the semifinals. He was nervous, but he practiced every night while his mother listened from her bed. She always requested one song, "Can't Help Falling in Love." One night, after he finished singing, she held his hand and whispered, "I want to watch you perform this on the big stage." For me, that became his semifinals piece. On the night of the performance, the Manila Arena was even louder. People held signs with his name. Some wore Elvis costumes, some painted Filipino flags on their cheeks. The moment Daniel appeared, the arena erupted. He took the mic gently, remembering his mother's words. The first note floated like velvet across the silence, and instantly, the arena melted into awe. His voice had grown, deeper, more confident, but still humble. Still pure, still him. He didn't just sound like Elvis anymore, he sounded like a Filipino singing from the depths of his soul. And when he reached the final line, the entire arena stood before he even finished. The audience voted overwhelmingly, sending him straight to the finals. But the real twist came hours later when he received a call that his mother had been hospitalized. She insisted he continue the show, but he stayed by her side every night leading up to the finals, singing softly to her while she slept. When finals night arrived, he chose a song Elvis only performed live a few times, "If I Can Dream." It was his mother's favorite. And when he walked onto the stage, something felt different. The arena was quieter, respectful, emotional. People sensed the weight of the moment. As he sang, it felt like he was pouring everything out, every night shift, every hardship, every prayer, every dream he never believed he could chase. His voice cracked in places not because he lacked control, but because he was human. Because he was hurting. Because he meant every word. The final note wasn't just heard, it was felt. A wave of emotion swept across the arena, and for the first time on AGT Manila, even Simon wiped a tear discreetly. After the show ended, Daniel rushed to the hospital. When he entered the room, his mother opened her eyes weakly and whispered, "You were wonderful, Anik." That was the last conversation they had. She passed away peacefully hours later. Daniel held her hand, tears flowing endlessly. He realized she had stayed alive just long enough to see his dream come true. At the finale results show, when the host announced him as the champion of AGT Manila 2025, Daniel looked up toward the ceiling as if searching for her face. Confetti fell around him again, but this time he wasn't surprised. He was grateful. He held the trophy to his chest and whispered, "For you, Ma." The world had discovered him because of a little boy selling bottled water. But it was his mother who gave him the courage to stand on that stage, to share his gift, and to believe, finally, that he was worthy of being heard. From a mall gate to the biggest stage in the country. From a quiet life to the voice heard around the world. When a Filipino sounded like Elvis, he reminded everyone that dreams don't age, talent doesn't hide forever, and miracles choose the most unexpected people.